I found this vintage navy Peacoat online recently, and it just came back from the dry cleaners, so I'm wearing it out for lunch today. This thing is older than me, but it still looks like it's in perfect condition. These coats made for the US Navy were built to last. 100% heavyweight wool, warm lining, and a large stand-up collar. I'll get back to this later along with the boots I'm wearing, but first the watch is the elegant 6119G. Maybe the most formal dress watch that I own, but it still works with a white dress shirt, navy cashmere sweater, and gray flannel trousers. The design of this watch is clean and simple. A second subdial at 6 o'clock and very minimal text at 12 o'clock. The dial is dark gray with vertical satin brushing, and the hour markers and hands are highly polished. The hobnail pattern of the bezel is a signature feature of the Calatrava and another detail that really sparkles and catches the light. The case shape is very simple, but also distinctly Patek Philippe at the same time, and it's very thin, so it lies very flat on the wrist. Made of solid white gold, but it's also very lightweight at the same time because it is so thin. The bonus feature is seen by turning it over on its back, the beautifully highly finished movement seen through the open case back. You will not see this level of finishing until you get into a high-end watch brand, and I think the detail and quality of finishing of Patek Philippe is secondary only to Vacheron or Langazona. This is a manual wind movement, and it does have a double barrel design for longer power reserve, but I still often forget to wind up this watch. The case diameter is 39 millimeters, but it does have two drawbacks just because the case design is so flat. The case does not curve or shape around the wrist at all, so on my 6.5-inch wrist, this 39 millimeter diameter still looks slightly large. And also because the crystal is so flat, it does catch a lot of glare, so this is not the most legible watch in the world. So the way to tell time on this watch is not just to look straight on at the watch dial. It's to rotate the wrist until the hands catch the light and they just light up, so it makes it easier to tell the time. I have this on the shiny black alligator strap from Patek Philippe in a size small. I had to order a size small because the regular length was just too large for my 6.5-inch wrist. The replacement strap was expensive, I think around $350, but it was worth it to me to have a genuine leather strap. I'm finished with lunch, so now I'll try on and take a closer look at the navy Peacoat. I normally do not buy pre-owned clothing from eBay just because it's too risky. I feel like it's too risky that I might get something that doesn't fit correctly, or it's in poor condition, or has a bad odor to it. But I wanted to get a Peacoat as a second coat for this winter, but I still wasn't sure about sizing or fit, and I didn't want to pay full price. I think I tried out Shot NYC many years ago, but I did not like the boxy fit of that. I also looked this time at Private White and Buzz Rickson, and these looked great. They look like very authentic reproductions of the classic navy Peacoat, but they were very expensive. I found this one on eBay and it looked like it was in great condition, so I put in an offer for $60. They made millions of these coats in the past, so you can find one on eBay for a very reasonable price. And if it still didn't work out, I wouldn't be out a lot of money and I could just donate this back to Goodwill. And if you look hard enough, you could even find a good example for $50 or $40. The Peacoat was issued to enlisted sailors for many, many decades. It was double-breasted and made of heavyweight wool to protect against the weather on board ship, and the large collar could be flipped up to protect the neck. The length was kept short to allow for extra mobility on board ship, but now it's good to let you get in and out of the car more easily. Officers could purchase their own version of a Peacoat, but with the gold-colored buttons and a rank insignia on the shoulder, but in this case it was called a reefer. Or officers could also purchase a longer version of this, which was called a bridge coat. But sadly, the Navy no longer issues the Peacoat. Just a few years ago, they switched over to the black parka made of synthetic materials. But I still think it's acceptable to wear a peacoat as a civilian. So many civilian clothes came from military origins, such as the trench coat, the flight jacket, army overshirts, khaki trousers, jump boots or tanker boots, and a lot more. But since I'm a Navy officer, I always gravitate towards naval clothing. I have this in a size 38 regular, and for reference, I'm 5'7" and 135 pounds. The shoulders are slightly too wide for me, but the chest and the waist are just perfect to allow for layering of a sweater underneath, and the length is good for me, and it looks better when it's buttoned up instead of when it's left open. The sleeves were too long for me, so I had to have them shortened by 2 inches. So the alterations plus the dry cleaning was $50, in addition to the $60 that I paid for the coat itself. The wool itself looked almost perfect, almost like brand new, and I could not see any signs of wear or damage. There was one defect. The very bottom button on the right side looks like someone tried to replace it, and when they sewed it back on, it went all the way through the pocket on the inside, so the button actually splits the pocket into two. It's still wearable, and the pocket is still usable as a hand warmer, so I'm not sure if I'll try to have that fixed. My coat is made of 100% kersey wool, and this is typical of the earlier pea coats. It's a heavyweight wool and densely woven, so it's resistant to snow and water. Later on, they switched over to Melton wool, which is a slightly softer feel to it. So this kersey wool has a slightly rougher feel to it. And the color is a dark navy, so even though it sometimes looks black, it definitely has a blue tinge to it. There's a useful article on the Fedora Lounge to determine the date of production of your Navy Peacoat just by looking at the inner tag, the buttons, and the pockets. On the inner right chest, this label looks like this was made in 1968. The label says a coat, men's wool, kersey blue peacoat. There's a code below that, then it says size 38, 100% wool, Pembroke INC. The name of the sailor is written in light blue ink, which is typical, and then there's an alphanumeric code, which I do not know what that means. Also in 1968, they switched over the hand warmer pocket lining to be this moleskin type of cotton, and before it was lined in corduroy. And you can also look at the buttons on the front. These large black buttons were typical of 1968. So with all of these details, this looks like a completely authentic Navy vintage peacoat from around 1968, which would make this coat older than me and still going strong. The boots I'm wearing are the Alden Indy boots in black cordovan leather with brass eyelets and speed hooks and commando outsoles. And I think this goes well with the Navy Peacoat. And because the Peacoat is short, I wore it with the heavy, thick flannel trousers. This boot was originally made in brown leather and was a work boot, but changed the name to the Indy boot after Harrison Ford wore it in Indiana Jones. I've had this black cordovan version for over a year, and it was my primary boot over the last winter, and I think it will be again this winter. I got this on a discount because it was a seconds version. Alden will offer up their brand new boots sometimes as a seconds version, and it has maybe a slight scuff to the leather or slight irregularity to the stitching. It still does not alter the function, but they do not sell those as brand new, and they sell them at a discount as a seconds version. The last on this has a wide toe box and it's extra spacious inside. So this is a size 7.5, and I usually wear an 8.5 in dress shoes or a 9 in sneakers. The Alden Indy boot is extremely comfortable right out of the box, and this needed no breaking in, so that's one of the reasons why I wear this so much. The Cordovan leather is very resistant to water and snow, and the Commando outsole gives an adequate grip on the sidewalk. And overall, the styling of this boot, I can still wear it to the office with the suit. Taking care of Cordovan leather boots is very simple. The main method is just to store them in wooden shoe trees and then just simply brushing them. Just keep brushing them over and over. Cordovan leather is very durable and it will bring up a shine just with simply brushing. I did have to replace the boot laces because the speed hooks do cause some friction against the laces and one of them just snapped off. But the condition of the leather still looks great. Cordovan leather is almost a self-healing, so minor scuffs and damages can just be brushed out. And Cordovan leather does not crease, typically like calfskin leather does. The Cordovan leather will just ripple and produce some waves in the leather. And for moisturizing, I simply use just a very small amount of Cordovan cream about twice a year. And for more serious scuffs and damage or extra ripples, I use the deer bone for repair. I tripped and fell and seriously scuffed up this boot, but rubbing the deer bone against the leather will heal the leather and resolve the scuffs. The oil from the deer bone will transfer into the Cordovan leather, and it can really repair the leather and also help smooth out some of the ripples. So even though the top of the shoe did have some deep scuff marks, I can barely see them anymore. So these are just 3 items that I've been wearing: the 6119G, the vintage navy Peacoat, and the Alden Indy boots in Cordovan leather. All simple in design, but very complex when you get down to the details. Versatile, elegant, and functional at the same time. Just want to do another quick update on my new nutrition and fitness routine. Just trying to get a little bit healthier and lose some weight. I'm doing decent with the diet, eating high protein and low calorie. I'm around 1,200 to 1,300 calories per day and burning about 2,000 calories per day. But the weight loss is not going great. I lost about 3 pounds in 3 weeks, but I'm back to another plateau. The body weight exercises are also doing fine. I'm doing them regularly and adding a couple more reps each time, doing pull-ups and push-ups. My shoulders are slightly better, just a little bit of pain from the rotator cuff tendonitis, but I'm trying to keep my elbows tucked in while I'm doing push-ups. I should be doing squats also, but I hate doing squats, so I haven't started them yet. The treadmill is also doing well. I'm running about a little bit less than 1 mile per day and walking another half mile a day. I'm looking more forward to running on the treadmill. It's giving me more energy the next day, and when I have the energy, I feel the urge to get back on the treadmill and burn it off. But the alcohol-free did not go so well. My goal was 28 days without alcohol, but I only made it 22 days, and I'm kind of disgusted at myself because of this. I think that's kind of a red flag and means that I was drinking more than I should because I couldn't even make it past 22 days. I thought it would be easy after the first 2 weeks. I was sleeping much better, I had more energy, and my sleep scores and activity scores were consistently optimal on my Oura Ring. So I think alcohol is my keystone habit. there's a severe domino effect from that. If I do drink, I'll feel more hungry and eat more junk food. Then my sleep will be destroyed and I'll feel very fatigued and lowly motivated the next day and won't get much done the next day in terms of fitness. So I'll try again and try to go even longer next time and maybe even extend it into the dry January.